So, now because we talk about natural resources, then what is the practical suggestion of the ancient sages on the utilization and regulation of natural resources then? Well, I guess an important area is conservation. Okay, and this is related to the principle of equality that we have mentioned earlier. When we discussed the five elements. In the context of economics, equality partially means equal access to natural resources, and it's not just about the cross-sectional equality among the population at one point in time, but also a time series equality among all future generations. Therefore, in order to preserve the access to vital resources for both current population and future generations, the conservation of natural resources becomes really important. Conservation of natural resources is also the operational side of the principle of sincerity and respect to the world, both organic and inorganic. Based on the philosophy that all organic lives and inorganic lives beings have the equal Buddhahood, then all the basic principle of Confucius apply to them all, including the principle of love and the principle of reciprocity, which we briefly introduced in Lecture 1. So this way, the ancient sages suggest that we must treat the nature with respect, the same way that we would like to be treated, and that is the principle of reciprocity. Okay, now we'll illustrate this conservation policy on three types of natural resources, namely living creatures, forests, and mines. Okay? So in the Book of Rights, chapter of Royal Regulation, it says to hunt without observing the rules for hunting was deemed cruelty to the creatures of heaven. Now, notice that animals are referred to as the creatures of heaven in this short sentence. Now, this shows great respect to the intellectually inferior species, right? Because deep down, all creatures have the same Buddhahood. Although, in terms of survival, some species are food to other species, but this does not create the excuse of mistreatment. So, what are the rules of hunting then? Well, Confucius laid down two general rules. Okay, and the first is about the timing of hunting. For example, the Royal Regulation documents that only after the first month of the lunar calendar, which is sometime around February on normal calendar, fishermen are allowed to commence fishing in the marsh and lake. This is because during this time of the year, otters start to increase their prey, and this signals the increase in the quantity of fish in the water. So fishing only around this time of the year, which is high quantity of fish, can avoid overkilling the fish, allowing for the fish to be preserved at the right level for future fishing. A similar operation goes to the hunting of land animals. Okay, and ancient hunters would observe the hunting activity of wolves and use that as a signal of increasing availability of land animals. Sometimes farmers set fire on the field in order to improve the health of the field. But while doing so, many small insects are burned along the way. So according to the teaching of Confucius, farmers in the past would wait till the insects to return to their burrows before burning the field in order to minimize collateral damage to their lives. Well, I think this is a very unique thing to do, isn't it? Different from hunting of fish and land animals. In the case of burning the farming field, preserving the life of insect is purely for the purpose of minimizing killing, because we don't eat insect. And I think this is a very good demonstration of the practice of the principle of benevolence. The Analects document a short description of the hunting activity of Confucius himself. Very interesting. It says, the master angled but did not use a net. He shot, but not at birds perching. Birds trapped in the net, right? So this means that Confucius only takes what he needs from nature and never cause unnecessary loss of animals' life. This is hunting according to the principle of humanity. We can see that the above rules of hunting and Confucius' very own demonstration are from an ethical point of view, and they are designed to foster kindness and sympathy. But also, from an economic point of view, they are for the smoothing of consumption and capital depletion. The nature can be seen as capital, right? And a good preservation of capital ensures that sufficient income can be generated to cover the consumption. I guess any finance person can tell you that consumption being greater than income is not sustainable. The ancient sages knew this principle a long time ago. When King Hui of Liang consulted Mencius about governance, Mencius said, if closed nets are not allowed to enter the pools and ponds, the fishes and turtles will be more than can be consumed. What does that mean? Well, in the ancient times, the meshes of a net were required to be 4 inches in size, and the people were not allowed to eat fish under a foot long. So this means that only grown fish was allowed to be consumed for food. And Mencius used this example to illustrate the importance of a controlled consumption pattern, given the cyclical nature of resource regeneration. Very similar rule, also applied to conservation of forestry. The regenerating cycle is much longer for timber resources, obviously. Therefore, the cutting down of tree must be compensated by an equal pace of planting new trees. Careless usage of timber and damage to the forest also has severe consequence. In modern society, we have seen the consequences of landslide caused by deforestation. Tree cutting is one of the most important reasons of deforestation. In his consultation, Mencius said to the king, if the axes and bills enter the hills and forests only at the proper time, the wood will be more than can be consumed. So, what is proper time? What does that refer to? The chapter of royal regulation in the Book of Rights documents that, it says, when the plants and trees drop their leaves, the 10th month, people enter the hills and forests with axes. Now, this could mean that people are encouraged to use only the trees that have fallen to the ground. So this shows that the care of ancient sages and the idea of harmonious coexistence between the nature and human beings. So you see that the concept of harmony is very important, but it also must be protected by law, right, in order to ensure that it is properly implemented. In the Zhou Book of Rights, it is recorded that there was dedicated government officers who took charge of the rules of forests. For example, the rule states that in the winter, only the trees on the south side of the hill are allowed to be cut down. In the summer, only the tree on the north side of the hill are cut down. So this rule is based on which type of tree grow during which time of the year. And that different types of trees are grown on different part of the hill. So trees that are in their growth period of the year must be preserved and forbidden to be cut down. Well, although the terminology is different in ancient times, we can clearly see that the ancient rulers were very mindful about the harmony between economic production and the nature. The production process must be in line with ethics, and ethics is the way of the nature. So any conduct that is against the nature is unethical. Now, you may argue that modern technology has changed the process of tree plantation, and human beings can now create oases in certain part of the desert. However, deforestation is still on the rise. In 2016, global tree cover loss reached a record high of 73.4 million acres. The loss was 51% higher than 2015, and the total area was about the size of New Zealand. So, on the one hand, technology can lead to both efficiency in plantation and forestation. But on the other hand, technology can also lead to deforestation and consequential landslide, soil erosion, water cycle disruption, greenhouse gas emission, and biodiversity losses. So, it's quite an ironic picture given the fact that human instinct is to survive, and yet all of these man-made problems simply make sure that it does not happen. The problem with deforestation doesn't lie in the lacking of technology. No, it doesn't. Neither does it lie in the creation of technology. It's not about technology. It lies in human misunderstanding of ethics. As we said before, ethics is not a man-made concept. It naturally exists. And we only have to know about it and make sure that we follow it. Cutting trees at the right time is ethical, right? Being loyal to friends is ethical. Respecting people is ethical. Consuming within one's means is also ethical. Producing according to the capital adequacy is again ethical. The modern society has a misinterpretation, let's say, of ethics, in that being ethical is equivalent to being old school, or lacking of imagination, whereas being unethical opens doors to all kinds of profit-taking. For example, the creation of toxic financial product is seen as creative. The over-depletion of forestry is rationalized by demand and supply and the concept of market economy. And a stakeholder-oriented corporate policy is deemed to contradict shareholders' wealth. Also, an investment bank that put ethics first and does not take part in short-term market frenzy is deemed overly conservative. Or a company that takes into account of social cost of pollution and spend money on, environmental protection is condemned for hurting shareholders' benefit. But if we look at the mounting evidence of the bad consequences of unethical business conduct, we come to realize that relative to technological and economic development, ethics teaching deserve much more attention. In fact, economic development without ethics will bring human society to a very, very ugly ending. Now, the Book of Rights also documents the rules of mining. Okay, it says the famous hills and great mares were not included in the investitures. Now, this has two meanings. On the productive side, it is for the conservation of natural resources, but on the distributive side, it is against monopoly. So, not included in the investitures means that these resources should not be conferred on any feudal lords or noble families. And so the notion of distributive equality deserves more explanation. So we will have a dedicated lecture on distribution later.